Alright, let's take a look at question number 2. In question number 2, we're going to be working on how to evaluate functions and the utilization of the order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally in simplifying the resulting expression. Okay? So a caution to keep in mind when evaluating functions is you always want to use parentheses to avoid making mistakes. Okay? So what are we talking about here? Let's take a look at the function under consideration. We have g of x is equal to negative 2x squared plus 3x. The question says, what is the value of g of negative 3? So g of negative 3. So what's happening here is we are inputting negative 3 into the function and trying to figure out what the resulting output is. Alright, it's similar to the previous problem, but we're doing the same process algebraically here. Okay, so we have negative 2. What's going to happen is all the spots that have x's, we're going to take out the x's and replace them with parentheses. Why are we doing that? Well, it's because we're going to substitute the new x value, which is negative 3, into the empty spaces. So you have g of negative 3. This input value right here is your x value. So x is basically negative 3. So we're going to take this particular x value and we're going to put them into the expositions. Alright, think about it as substituting. Alright, so the first x, instead of x squared, we have negative 3 squared. And then 3x is 3 times negative 3. Notice how I put parentheses around this values that I substituted. It prevents me from making mistakes when I'm evaluating the expression using the order of operation. Okay, so we have please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide from left to right, and then add and subtract from left to right. Okay, so we're going to PEMDAS this expression real quick, and that will give us our final answer. Now, another thing that you want to note is that when you take a negative number and you raise it to an even power, your answer is always going to be positive. Okay, that is because all your negative signs can be paired up into 2's, and when you multiply 2 negatives, you end up with a positive. When you raise a negative number to an odd power, your result will be negative because there's always going to be one minus left hanging, and all the other minuses will be paired up and they will all become pluses, and that one minus remaining will cause the entire product to be negative. Okay? Alright, with that in mind, let's simplify this expression right here. So we have negative 2. Now, what is negative 3 raised to the second power? Negative 3 raised to the second power is positive 9. How so? Negative 3 squared, just think about it as negative 3 multiplied by negative 3. Okay? And then we have positive 3 multiplied by negative 3. Remember, whenever you're multiplying different signs, you always end up with a negative. Okay, so we have negative 9 here. And then, let's see, this becomes negative 2. Now let's multiply these two together, this minus and this minus. Minus 3 times minus 3 is going to be positive 9. So you can see clearly that negative 3 raised to the second power resulted in a positive result. Okay? And then we'll bring down this minus 9. Following order of operations, we need to multiply first before we subtract. So we multiply negative 2 and 9. Negative 2 times 9 is negative 18 minus 9. Since the signs are the same, you add and keep the sign, and your final answer will be negative 27. Answer to question number 2 is option number 1. Okay, now how can we do this with a calculator? Well, there are two ways you can do this with a calculator. You can either use the table or you can evaluate this from the home screen. Okay, so what we're going to do first is store negative 3 in the x values. So negative 3, we're going to store it in x. Press enter. And then we're going to enter this expression in the calculator, negative 2x raised to the second power plus 3x. And press enter. And then we see what the answer is. Okay, so you can also evaluate expressions using the home screen in your TI 84. So just remember to store the constant in the variable first, enter the expression, press enter, and then it will calculate the answer for you. So we can clearly see that the answer